We're taking a look at the textual analysis of the piano from 1993. That's when the film came out. Uh, it is directed by Jane Compton, and it had the lady who did the voice of Mrs. Incredible as the main actress in the film, Holly Hunter. Okay, so this is what your analysis should look like when you're typing it into a Google Doc, and then you'll be converting it to a PDF file. And you have your title, sequence running time. So remember, you're picking a 5-minute scene from the film. And as you can see here exactly, they've got the running time. This is like the timer that you'd see as you're playing the film. It's an hour and 12 minutes and 41 seconds in, and to an hour and 17 minutes and 41 seconds. So it's exactly 5 minutes. And you can have less than 5 minutes, but you need to have it's better to have more to work with than less to work with. And the main thing is you're choosing a scene that you find is very important to the film for whatever reason. Now, in the piano, it's been a while since I've seen this film, but it's about a woman who loses her husband, and they move to not Australia, but New Zealand, I think. Yeah, here we go, New Zealand. And anyway, there's a little bit more. I'll read through this with you. Okay, so you're going to explain the extract and why you've chosen it in this first paragraph. So I've chosen this. The extract I've chosen is taken from Jane Compton's film, The Piano. Going to analyze in terms of social, geographical, historical context. So when you're opening like this is a basic opening that you need to have describing what you're going to do, what you're going to show in your analysis. And when you do that, make sure you actually talk about all these things: narrative structure, mise en scene, genre, editing, sound, cinematography, all very important to how this is going to come through. Okay, so piano was set in 1950s New Zealand, so you're going to give a background to the film, a time when women had no rights at all. Okay, so now we're talking about women's rights, kind of like some of those issues that were covered in the Water film, Water 2005 film, a little bit because of in Indian culture. So remember, we're relating this to culture in a time period. So we're talking about 1850s, New Zealand, and a woman. And so those are all the context that's important here. And so they could not own property or hold their own money, and everything they had went to their husbands. Okay. It was quite normal for them to be forced into marriage and were expected to tolerate their husbands. Okay. Additionally, women were not supposed to be sexual beings, and it was considered scientifically proven fact that they had no sexual desire. Any woman that showed such tendencies was considered to be mentally insane and had to be treated immediately. Okay, I have no idea how you treat someone who has sexual desire medically. Okay, so, but you can see how obviously this is not not a fact here. Obviously this is not true. But anyway, okay. So New Zealand at this time was still uncolonized with large amounts of forested population. So again, we're still going through the story here a bit, talking about the context of the story. I'm going to skip through some of this. Film was released in '93, so here we go with the history. Remember, we've already done some work with studying the director, producer, writer, and influences for your film. Very important part of it. You've got to keep that in mind, and you can use that here from your analysis slideshow that you did. The film, or the ones that the others did, so you can take from that, but of course credit the information. Film was released in '93, same year that marked the beginning of the third wave of feminism. Okay, so that's a good thing to look up. This is definitely a feminist film. And it's directed by a woman, Jane Compton. Has stated that she does not consider herself a feminist director. Her representation of female characters has a feminist structure. Fendel. Okay, so here is that in text citation right here that I mentioned in my warm-up, or the overview of textual analysis. All right, so there it is right there. Talk a little bit about it. The quotes put in there. We get in the credit. Self-identity was a big part of the third wave, so you're talking a little bit about feminist theory here. Now, there could be a mention of feminist theory in, if you're doing Water, probably Japanese anime theory, if you did Akira, and for Stranger Things, I'm sure that there's some sort of sci-fi theory that could be mentioned there, sci-fi, and what other genres like horror, suspense, gore, maybe theory. If you want to try to apply it, you got to look it up, though. And that's just what this is about. You have to do research. Okay. Jane Compton has always aimed to fight this in her films, like, so it doesn't, to fight for the feminist cause, I guess, even though she says she's not doing it. She wants her female characters to be seen more than sexual objects. All right, next page here. It has done a 2-page thing. Okay, well, that's all right, too. Ada in the film, that's Holly Hunter's character. And in the I've chosen especially where, did we skip a page? I don't think we did. Let's go back up. Visible with the character of Ada. Okay, no, we haven't. Okay. I have chosen especially where we see Ida taking control of her own life. This setting and context tied to the main themes of the film, which can be found in this extract, Love, Sex, Society, and Women. In this film, there's a lot of nudity and sex, which is allowed, I mean, it can be part of the IB experience here. And this film definitely has a lot of nudity in it, from what I recall. All right, the sequence I've chosen begins with Ada leaving her daughter Flora in the woods in order to go see Baines. Baines, I can't remember the name of the guy who played him. He was in Pulp Fiction. He was the cleaner. I can't think of his name. Anyway, all right, so, but I'm not going to go through every single thing in here, but as you can see previously here, it's all set up to talking about the sequence, the 5-minute sequence here. Okay, as you can see, she's covering a lot of technical parts too here. We're talking about the actual location, which of course is the context here, thus beginning the romantic and sexual relationship when she meets up with this guy, and it ends with her husband watching them from outside the hut. So her husband is Dr. Grant from the Jurassic Park films. And so, yeah, I think at the beginning I mentioned she lost her husband. That's not correct. She is with her husband, and her husband is very controlling of her. Well, she's trying to find some sexual freedom here, and she goes off with this guy named Baines. All right, so Ada's character, as we see her exploring her own sexuality for the first time, starting to become more independent. In the scene, we also get a clear view of Stewart's character. That, I believe, is her husband, as he finds out about the illicit relationship and shows his isolation and fascination with Ida. This is done in the extract mainly through juxtaposition, cinematography, and non-diegetic sound. Okay, so as you can see, that's a pretty good breakdown there. All right, so I'm going to page down, see if this works. It's not really working. All right, so I need to find the scroll bar. Here we go. Okay, in the beginning, the sequence marks Anna's breakaway from her daughter, Flora. All right. Now, so here we are describing the scene, and also we're talking about cuts to the shot of her stepfather approaching. You should be talking in precise film terms at this point when you're describing the scene. Not a shot of stepfather approaching, but a medium shot, a full shot, a close-up, a panning shot, whatever it might be. This is just a shot of her stepfather approaching doesn't work for me. You've got to have more. A feeling of apprehension immediately overwhelms us as we wonder if Stewart is going to find out about the affair. He asks Flora where her mother is, and in a close-up, she screams, "To hell." Okay, so we need to have all of these things described like that. Close-up shot, medium shot, all that. And one thing about Ida is she does, and it's not mentioned here yet, she does not speak in the film. She never says anything. That's kind of, I don't know, has not been touched on in this movie at all. She does not speak. She plays the piano. That's why this movie's called The Piano. That's all she does. It's kind of a way if she expresses herself and then she becomes starts expressing herself sexually. These two juxtaposing shots represent the concept of hell put next to Baines. Okay, again, Baines is the guy that she's messing around with. Flora is the daughter, and daughter says, "Mom's going to hell." Okay, because she's cheating on her, on her dad, on her husband here. Okay, so as to say, as the relationship with Ida and the adultery they are about to commit are sin, yes. However, in the context of the film, Ida's freedom and her independence come from her sexual relationship with Baines. Okay, so she's relating her freedom to the sexual relationship. With this scene, Compton is criticizing the way society judges women. So you do need to make a call. You need to make a decision on what is being said in your film and why. society judges women, and this is criticizing that, as Ida's sexuality is seen as a sin and not as something to be celebrated. What is more, the shot shows the divide between Flora, her daughter, and Ida, the mom. Up until now, Flora has never spoken to her stepfather, and this is the first time that she does. She betrays her mother. Okay, so the daughter doesn't speak. I guess I had that wrong. I thought the mom didn't speak, and I also forgot that Dr. Grant is the stepdad. Again, it's been a while since I've seen this film. Many years since I've seen this film. Regarding the cinematography, okay, we're getting to how it looks. Jane Compton stated in an interview that she is not interested in getting specific shots, but rather in what sort of to the top of the page, and what sorts of sensations and feelings and subtleties that she, Compton, can get through the story and bring out through performance. And so this is, again, your inline citation there. This is what sets the piano apart from other period romance dramas. Most of the films belong to this genre, have very intense cinematography with wide sweeping shots and dramatic close-ups, but Stuart Dryburgh's cinematography is much simpler. This is good here. Mentioning the cinematographer's name is always good. It shows that you actually researched it. Use these names. Like whoever did the costumes for this movie is very important because it's a period piece. You need to mention who did that when you talk about mess and scene. Okay. Yet very powerful, taking full advantage of the actor's abilities, giving the film the manner of a fairy tale. And then again, there's your citation. A clear example of this when we see Ida in Bane's hut and not being sure what to do, starts to pacing back and forth. The camera tracks her, mirroring her indecision with his movement, giving her the voice she does not have and the chance to show us her mental state. Yes, again, I'm right about this. She does not speak. A voice she does not have. She does not speak in the film, and her daughter only spoke that one time to Hell, to her stepfather. Okay. All right, and here's an illustration here. And they're using illustrations, but you can use screen grabs to demonstrate your argument here. What you're trying to say is an important scene or important part. Okay, you can do that, but it does not count toward the word count. Remember that. But the more you use appropriately, the better it's going to be. All right. So as Baines talks about wanting Ida and not being able to have her, the camera moves slowly on Ida from a medium shot. Here we go to a close-up. So again, slowly moves in, but a medium shot to close-up. Then what we need to be saying here is the camera starts at a medium shot, then dollies in here to a close-up, unless it's a zoom, which I don't believe is a zoom. And even if it is a zoom, then you say zoom. That is much more precise. Okay, despite being across the room from each other and therefore physically far away, they are becoming emotionally close as the shot moves in. So this is a good breakdown of what they feel the film is doing at this point. We see an increase in intensity of emotion in Ida's face. It's worth mentioning Holly Hunter's acting. Again, the first time they actually mentioned the actress's name, which is good to have the name, but should have been done earlier in this paper. Her acting ability at this point is she's able to show the combination of love, anger, confusion that Ida is feeling, yet still trying to repress. In this scene, the simple cinematography plays a pivotal role, with the camera being far enough to give the actors breathing room, focusing not just on Ida's face, but her entire posture, even her neck muscles. She is still very tense, but we can see her emotions emerging as we feel them with her. Okay. Now, again, that's an opinion. That's okay. But remember, we got to have, let's talk more about what the camera looks like, what's happening with the camera there, okay? All right, so we're going to go to the, okay, is that the last page? Why am I not getting any more here? Let's go page down. All right, here's the next page. All right, so after slapping Baines in a fit of outrage, Ada falls to the ground, and as she falls, the camera tilts. Here we go, camera tilts. And camera tilts, and a crane shot moves smoothly down to her so she can see eye level. She has eye level the entire time. Okay, so camera tilts, crane shot moves, nice. Okay, holding control of the shot, she still is the main focus. And this is Jane Compton's way of telling us that Ida is taking control of her life, especially being literally and figuratively down. She's down with it. Okay, y'all get that. Okay, so here is the illustration that the examiner used here. Again, this is not actually a student's work. This is an examiner's work trying to help us with the first time these projects are done. But here's, a nice little illustration, which of course you could use a still frame from the film. All right, so here Ida remains the primary focus of the camera again because it's watching her, if you remember from the previous part. So Campion's camera work is vital also for understanding Stuart's mind as he spies on his wife Ada and his rival Baines from outside the hut. Kind of little perverted kind of thing going on there, him looking through there. He is placed in the corner of the porch, cut off by two walls, the composition of the shot really showing his loneliness and isolation. When we get his point of view as it looks at them through the hole, so there's a POV shot here. And also, we need to put that in a POV point of view, and it would be nice to put an abbreviation POV in parentheses to show that you know that film language. We only see about a third of the screen with Anna and Baines, while the rest is cut off in black. Okay, this symbolizes not only Stuart's isolation, but also his strong desire for his wife and the realization he cannot have her. Now, again, you're making some assumptions here, and that's okay, because that's part of what your perception of this is supposed to be. Okay, so lighting in the sequence is entirely natural and ties in with the simplicity of the cinematography. Again, mentioning cinematography. And Baines is standing in the doorway. He is lit by the outside light, so this is good that they're talking about what the light sources are. Again, it shows your understanding of the techniques, and also that you understand that light is important to a scene. And again, describing the scene, continuing. While it would seem a little of little importance in the sequence, it's very interesting when put in context with the rest of the film. Most of the film is set, next page, in the forest, so the lighting is often foggy or distilled, with people seldom casting shadows because it's very diffuse lighting out in there. So inside this building, it's very different. Ada's shadow is a rare occurrence and shows that she is starting to have a stronger presence in her life, further symbolizing her struggle toward independence. Again, you're for Stranger Things or other films that we're doing, you're going to have to really think about what you're seeing in these films, so that and what maybe the filmmaker is trying to get across. So that's why you got to do a lot of research into Stranger Things, because that's what most of y'all are doing for this film. And of course, in future years when we're listening to this video, it's also going to be other films that we'll be talking about. But just keep in mind, if you've seen Stranger Things, you know that lighting and color and music and the way that film is shot and the way it's acted is all important to the entire mess and scene of the film, the entire film. Okay, so lighting outside is very good and bluish, in line with the eerie underwater hue, it says here, that characterizes the film. Now this is a reference right there to a quote. So you are quoting somebody, you need to refer it right in the text. Questioning of reality of people in these actions. Okay, in their actions, excuse me. All right, so one of the most interesting choices in terms of editing is a shot of Baines over 20 seconds long as he talks about wanting Ida. The camera refuses to cut away, so again, film terms, from him, and at first it seems almost selfish of him, but when we begin to see how affected he is emotionally, we realize this is what Ida finds most attractive about him. His ability to show emotions. Like, this is something her husband does not. Another important cut shows a close-up of Ida and Baines inside the hut, kissing and sharing a very intimate moment. While Stuart, her husband, is outside with the dog standing on the porch. There are several tall trees in the background, making him seem really cut off from the world and small compared to everyone else. Again, using symbolism here. You've got to think about what you're seeing in these shots. These two shots juxtapose the ideas of closeness and loneliness. A lot of things, closeness, loneliness, are mentioned here a lot, so that's good. It gives you a feel for what's happening. Even though you haven't seen this film, I think you understand what you're feeling here, what we're seeing. She is living a fantasy romance inside the hut, but outside her husband is looking, feeling alone and angry. Yeah, so she is living her fantasy romance while he is living alone and angry outside. And why didn't he knock on the door? Why didn't he stop what was going on? That's a really good question. Most of the background tracks, I think he was afraid of Baines. Most of the background tracks are recorded on location with many bird and wildlife sounds, so we got a lot of, this is where you want to talk about, what's the sound type? I'm trying to think of it here as non-digenic and digenic sound, okay? Because they probably shot that part on a set and added these sounds later. So we hear a sad bird song in the background. And remember, sound is important. So when you're doing Stranger Things or Water or whatever film you're doing, think about the music part. Think about the dramatic sound effects, and of course the sounds added for the creature and other things that all bring it together to scare you, surprise you, or whatever is going on. Here we hear a sad bird song in the background. The placement of this track is important because so far the image that Baines has projected is that of a wild and hard man, but here we finally see his emotions pouring out. Ada is really attracted to the side of him because while Stewart is always controlling, Baines understands her. So her husband, the Dr. Grant character, Dr. Grant, is controlling Baines, wants her to be free. As Stewart approaches the hut, we hear a non-diegetic track of Ada and Baines inside, creating dramatic irony because he is unaware of what he is going to find while the audience can hear it, stressing his isolation. So we know what's going on there. He doesn't. He's about to find out. Most of the music composed by Michael Nyman for the film is for the piano. However, when Baines leans in to kiss Ida, we hear a strings piece, so it makes it more dramatic, more romantic sound. But up to now, their relationship has been based around the piano, so this change symbolizes a new chapter in their life. String music is also a traditional romantic dramas, again, furthering the idea of a fairy tale romance going on. All right. The setting in this case is an uncivilized world where society is far away. So as you can see, now we're going into the cultural part here. Like at the beginning, we talked about where this is, when this is, why they're there, and then we start talking about the scene itself, the context of the scene, the sexuality in the scene, all these different things throughout this part of it, through the meat of your presentation, if you want to call it that. Again, we also talked about the camera moves and what it looks like, what it sounds like here. Again, all very important. And now we're talking about here, again, the uncivilized world that they live in, animalistic nature, things like that. Now, the depth in the movies you're reviewing or you're critiquing for your textual analysis isn't quite as deep as this, especially with Stranger Things. So you're really going to have to dig to find other meanings for what is depicted in that film text. Now, like Water, it'll be a little easier because there's a lot more symbolism and other cultural challenges there that you don't have in Stranger Things, but you certainly have it in Akira. But if your choice is Stranger Things, then that's okay. And again, in the future, when you're watching and listening to this, when these movies aren't available for review or for use in this project, just think of the other films that we've talked about. Okay. So now here we go. Okay, this blah blah blah. Okay, the setting in this case, uncivilized world. We did that. No rules and people. There are no rules, and people let out their animalistic nature. Campion likes to explore this concept, how people act outside the constraints of society. Together with the theme of passion and lust, we can see this in Stewart and his confusion concerning his feelings of lust toward his wife, reaching the point where he spies on her with another man without intervening. So here we go. So he wants her, but can't have her, and has given up on that, and is just going to watch. The main focus, however, is Ida's self-realization achieved through liberated eroticism. Again, this is good to have a quote and then have the citation for that right there. And her escape from the constraints of her life represented also by her clothes. Okay, so obviously this is a big scene, very important scene to the film, because it shows her finally freeing herself. So here we go, wrapping it up. The film also explores how complicated life and relationships we have. Stewart really loves Ada, but is confused by her, either trying to control her or just watching her. Ada and Baines' relationship is romantic, yet it blossoms from an initial situation very close to sexual blackmail. Additionally, because the setting is very isolated and only things that place it contextually are the costumes and the Maori. I guess that's the local people. All the themes discussed in this film should be applied to any other time or place, undoubtedly accounting for the film's vast success. Okay, I'm not sure how that's a good ending. Things discussed could be applied to any other time and place. Okay, so here at the end, this is just a little warning. Say, remember, this is not a student assessment. This is what they put together so we could have an opportunity to see what they expect. Now, the only reason there isn't any examples yet is because this is the first year we're doing this, so it'll be challenging. All right, and here's our works cited. Running through here, all of this, and this is even the last one we had, Tricknell, and then I'm not sure what. The number they had at the end was, I guess, the year. But anyway, here it is. That's the whole project. Okay, and there's a lot of things we need to do to get ready for this, but you have to do it step by step.